Trump today asking a federal court to block the Treasury Department from a case where he was losing because they've been ordered to give over his tax returns to Congress. He says they're just trying to dig up something embarrassing. The DOJ has cleared the way, basically deciding against Donald Trump that the tax returns, which are currently housed in the federal government, can go from one part of the government, the Treasury, to another part, the Congressional Ways and Means Committee, under the law. Now, we have a New York Times journalist, David Enrich, on this. He is the author of the book Dark Towers, Deutsche Bank, Donald Trump, and an Epic Trail of Destruction, a real expert on all of this. What does this all mean? Where do we go from here, sir?
Well, I think we're in for months, if not years, more legal wrangling. This is in Trump's style, going back to his days before he got into the White House, that he uses the legal system and the judicial process to kind of beat his enemies and rivals into submission. And that's clearly the strategy he's deploying here. And he's been deploying all along and fending off efforts by Democrats or other investigators or prosecutors to see his tax returns. And, you know, I think there is a better chance than there had been a couple of years ago that that lawmakers would get a look at these tax returns. But the fight is far from over. And this could go all the way back up to the Supreme Court again. And we could be waiting a very long time to see the fruits of this investigation.
Yeah, clearly put. David, let me ask you a follow-up, which is we've invited Trump lawyers and representatives in the New York criminal case on. No one's taken us up on it. But when we have heard their views sort of off air, which we try to gather in fairness and in coverage, just like you do, one of the arguments that's been made is, well, the DA in New York already got these tax returns that Congress wants, and had all the experts and time with them, and didn't come up with something yet against Donald Trump, although there are serious allegations against the company and the CFO of the company. So they make the argument that it can't be that bad, whatever's in there, if this aggressive prosecutor who's willing clearly to indict the org didn't indict Trump over it. What is your response to that kind of argument in this case? Because I'm thinking if that were true, and that's your argument, then why be worried about it going to Congress?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I would say two things to that. The first is basically, Ari, what you just said, which is that for someone who has nothing to hide, Trump sure has been fighting hard for years to keep this stuff secret. And so that to me suggests that, you know, regardless of whether there's anything criminal or illegal in these returns, there certainly is stuff that Trump wants to hide. And the most likely thing he wants to hide is that he is not nearly as good of a businessman, and his organization is not nearly as financially stable as he kind of publicly presents. And I think the other argument here is that the Trump camp is making the point that this is a political witch hunt, and that Democrats really do not have any legitimate interest in these returns. They're simply trying to make, you know, drag Trump through this very harsh spotlight and share his personal secrets with the world. And I think courts up and down the kind of federal hierarchy, all the way up to the Supreme Court, have repeatedly ruled that legislators, you know, in an oversight function, have a legitimate interest to conduct investigations that not only into the president's finances, but into issues that are raised by the president's finances. So in this case, the notion of whether very rich businessmen are finding creative ways to evade or avoid taxes is clearly a legitimate thing for the House Ways and Means Committee to be investigating. And so I think ultimately, at the end of the day, these legal arguments that the Trump camp is putting forward are going to be defeated. But I do think, you know, the way our system works, it's going to take quite a long time for us to get there.